What would you do if someone you loved left you one last message, and you didn't find it until weeks later? A message that might explain everything about their disappearance. Tonight, we continue the chilling story of Emily Carver, a young woman who walked into the night and was never seen again. And if you've already seen my first video on this case, you know just how disturbing and twisted this story really is. But tonight, we're going even deeper into the details, the theories, and the secrets that still surround one of the most unsettling disappearances in recent memory. If you haven't watched the first episode yet, I highly recommend you check it out after this one for the full picture. The link is in the description. And before we dive in, a quick reminder, over 90% of people watching my videos aren't subscribed. If you enjoy dark mysteries and haunting unsolved cases like this one, subscribing helps this channel grow and ensures you never miss the next upload. Now, let's step back into the shadows of Emily Carver's life and the voicemail that may have been her last words. It had been 21 days since Emily Carver vanished. Her best friend, Claire Morrison, was still replaying every detail of that night, every clue they had uncovered, every shadow they had chased. She wasn't sleeping much anymore, but when her phone buzzed with a new voicemail notification, she almost dismissed it as spam. Claire scrolled through the endless list, unknown numbers, telemarketers, wrong dials, until one name made her stop. Emily Carver. At first, she thought it had to be a mistake, but the timestamp didn't lie. The voicemail had been left on the night Emily disappeared. Claire's breath caught her throat as she pressed play. Static filled the speaker, broken only by sharp bursts of noise. Then, through the distortion, came Emily's voice. Quiet, trembling. "Claire, I think someone's following me." Claire's hand shook so badly she almost dropped the phone. She pressed it tighter to her ear, straining for every sound. A sudden crash echoed in the background, metal on pavement, like something being knocked over. And then silence. The recording ended, but something about it didn't feel complete. She played it again, over and over, until on the fourth try, she swore she heard something else. A second voice. Low, male, almost a growl. Just two words, "Not yet." She stumbled back in her chair, her heart pounding. Someone was with Emily that night. Someone close enough to speak into the phone as she whispered her final words. Claire rushed to Detective Marcus Hale, desperate to prove that this was the breakthrough they needed. "You're sure you heard another voice?" Claire nodded, her eyes wide. "Play it again," he said. But when they loaded the file into the department's audio lab, the second voice was gone. Only static remained. The technician shrugged. "Corrupted file. It happens." Hale looked unconvinced but careful. Claire felt her stomach twist. How could something she had just heard vanish like that? She insisted they analyze it further, but the request was quietly denied. The official record now showed only Emily's whisper and nothing more. No man. That night, Claire sat alone in her apartment, replaying the file on her own phone. Again and again, the growl came back. Faint, distorted. But there, she wrote down the words, "Not yet." What did it mean? Was it a warning? A command? Or a promise? The more she thought about it, the more she felt watched. And then something even stranger happened. The next morning, when she went to replay the voicemail, the file was gone. Deleted. Not archived. Not recoverable. Vanished. She swore she hadn't touched it, but the system said otherwise. Someone had accessed her account overnight. Someone who wanted that message erased. Claire confronted Hale again, her voice shaking with rage. "Someone in your department is tampering with this. Why else would evidence just disappear?" Hale didn't deny it. He leaned forward, lowering his voice. "You're not the only one who thinks there's something bigger here, Claire. But if you keep pushing, you might end up like Emily." Those words haunted her. For the first time, she realized she wasn't just chasing Emily's disappearance. She was now a part of it. The voicemail should have been the clue that solved the case. Instead, it raised more questions than answers. Who erased the file? Who was the man whispering into Emily's phone that night? And how much did the police know that they weren't saying? The nights had grown long and heavy since Emily Carver vanished. Claire Morrison barely slept anymore. When she closed her eyes, she heard the voicemail, Emily's trembling voice whispering, I think someone's following me. And that faint growl that only she seemed to hear, not yet. It played over and over in her mind until she couldn't tell if it was memory or madness. But something inside her refused to give up. Claire felt, deep in her bones, that Emily had left behind more than just fear. Somewhere, hidden in her world, there was a clue. One night, unable to bear the silence, Claire found herself standing outside Emily's apartment. The building looked the same as always, but to Claire it felt frozen in time, like a photograph trapped between moments. Police tape still clung to the front door frame, curling at the edges from rain. The official search was long over. To the detectives, Emily was just another missing person file in a growing stack. But to Claire, this was still sacred ground. Her hand trembled as she slipped her spare key into the lock. The door creaked open with a sound that seemed too loud for the empty hallways. She paused, listening. Nothing but the hum of the streetlights outside. Inside, the apartment was eerily preserved. The scent of Emily's lavender candles lingered, faint but sharp, mixed with the dust of weeks gone by. A half-empty mug of tea sat on the counter, rim-lined with flakes of dried chamomile. A book lay open on the couch, its spine cracked, as though Emily had been called away mid-sentence and never returned. Claire ran her fingers across the back of the couch, swallowing hard. She didn't know what she was looking for, only that she'd know it when she found it. Her eyes scanned the room once, twice. Then something caught her attention. Beneath Emily's bed, half hidden, was a cardboard shoebox. Her pulse quickened. She pulled it out, dust clinging to her hands. At first, she thought it might hold photographs or keepsakes. But when she opened the lid, her breath stopped. Inside was a small leather-bound journal. The cover was scuffed, the edges frayed, as though it had been carried everywhere. She opened it carefully. The handwriting was neat, deliberate. Emily's. But these weren't diary entries. They were notes, records, observations, names of people Claire didn't recognize, addresses scribbled in hurried ink, dates that stretched across months, even years, and on several pages, strange symbols, shapes Claire couldn't decipher, like coded messages. She flipped page after page until one stopped her cold. Written in bold red ink, circled 3 times, were the words, "The boarding house." Claire's throat tightened. The very same abandoned building she had already been to. The one where she and Marcus had seen the hooded man. The one that refused to leave her nightmares. Her hand shook as she turned the next page. At the top, Emily had written, "If anything happens to me, start here." Below, it was an address, the exact one of the decaying house. Claire sat frozen. Emily had known. Somehow, she had anticipated danger and left behind instructions. When she reached the street, she finally let the air out of her lungs. Her hands were shaking so violently she could hardly hold her keys. Whoever had been there, they hadn't tried to confront her. Not yet. But the message was clear. She was being watched. That night, she laid the journal open on her kitchen table, staring at her own name written on the page. She realized something terrifying. Emily hadn't been the first woman targeted. And unless she figured this out soon, she might be the next. Claire sat at her desk, the journal open in front of her. Hours slipped by as she combed through the names, the addresses, the half-coded notes. She recognized some of the streets, quiet residential neighborhoods, a few run-down apartment complexes, even a church. But it was the names that chilled her. She started searching. Most of them didn't pop up at all, but 3 did. Each was connected to a missing person case. Women who had vanished in the last 5 years. No bodies, no answers, just faces on old posters and desperate families who had stopped getting updates. It was late, well past midnight, when her laptop pinged. A message appeared in a private chat box. No sender, no contact name, just words. "You're not supposed to have that journal." Her blood ran cold. She hadn't told anyone about it. Not the police. Not Marcus. Not even her family. Before she could reply, another line appeared. "If you want to live, stop now." Claire's hand hovered over the keyboard. Her instinct screamed to shut the laptop, walk away, pretend she'd never seen it. But another part of her, the part that had kept her digging even after every warning, typed back 3 words. "Who are you?" The chat went silent for minutes that felt like hours. Then finally, I knew Emily. Her heart hammered. She typed faster. Where is she? The reply came. Meet me tomorrow, 8 p.m. if you want answers. An address followed. An old bus terminal on the outskirts of town, abandoned years ago. Claire barely slept. By the time night came, her nerves were stretched thin. Marcus insisted on going with her, but she shook her head. Whoever this person was, they had chosen her. Bringing Marcus might scare them off. The bus terminal was silent, its roof caved in, graffiti stretching across cracked concrete. She stepped inside, flashlight cutting through the dark. For a long moment, nothing. Then movement. A man stepped out of the shadows. Mid-40s, hollow eyes, clothes that hung loose on a frame worn by years of running. His voice was low, raw, as if he hadn't spoken to anyone in weeks. You shouldn't be here, he said. Then why call me? Claire asked. He studied her carefully before speaking again. Because you have her journal, and that means you're already in this. He called himself Nathan Cross. He claimed he had once lived at the boarding house. Not just lived there, survived it. He said it wasn't an ordinary place. Women checked in, but too many never checked out. Claire demanded proof, demanded answers. Nathan leaned closer, his voice trembling. You think Emily's the first? She wasn't. That house is a trap. And whoever runs it, they don't stop at one. Claire pulled out the journal, showing him the list of names. His face twisted with recognition. He pointed to two of them. I knew them. They were there, and they didn't make it out. Her throat tightened. So why you? How did you? His eyes darted around the empty terminal, as if expecting someone to be listening. Because I made a deal. I walked away, but I've been paying for it ever since. They don't like loose ends. Claire's heart raced. Emily had been right. The journal wasn't just notes. It was a death map. Before she could press further, Nathan's head snapped up. A sound echoed across the terminal. Footsteps. Heavy. Too close. Nathan grabbed her arm, his voice sharp. They followed you. We have to go. Now. But Claire didn't move. Her eyes locked on the shadows, shifting at the far end of the building. Someone else was here, watching. And for the first time since Emily's disappearance, Claire realized she wasn't just chasing ghosts anymore. The danger wasn't in the past. It was standing right in front of her. The night after the meeting with Nathan, Claire couldn't shake the sound of those footsteps in the bus terminal. Someone had followed her. Someone had watched. And if Nathan was right, then Emily's disappearance wasn't random. It was part of a pattern. She stayed awake until dawn, replaying everything in her mind. The journal, the names, the symbols, and Nathan's trembling voice when he whispered, "That house is a trap." By morning, she had made her choice. She needed to go back to the boarding house. Not alone this time, but not with the police either. She called Marcus. When he arrived, she handed him the journal. His eyes widened as he flipped through it. Claire, this isn't just a diary. This looks like a record. Someone was keeping score. Emily left it for me, Claire said quietly. She wanted me to follow it. Marcus hesitated. Or she wanted you to stay away. Still, he went with her. By the time the sun dipped low, they were standing once more outside the abandoned building. The windows were boarded. The paint peeled away in strips. And yet, the place seemed alive, humming with secrets. Nathan was already there, waiting in the shadows. His face was pale, his movements restless. You shouldn't have come back, he muttered. You brought me into this, Claire shot back. You said Emily wasn't the first. Prove it. Nathan's jaw tightened. Finally, he pulled a set of rusted keys from his pocket. Then follow me. But don't touch anything. And don't fall behind. The inside of the boarding house smelled of mildew and dust. Their flashlights cut across graffiti-covered walls and rotting floorboards. Nathan led them down a hallway, stopping at a door marked with a faint symbol, 2 interlocking circles. Claire froze. She had seen the same symbol in Emily's journal. Nathan unlocked the door. The hinges groaned as it swung open, revealing a narrow staircase spiraling downward. Cold air rushed up from below. In the basement, the walls were different. Not graffiti this time, but carvings. Dozens of them. Strange symbols etched deep into concrete, some painted over with streaks of dark red. Claire ran her fingers over one, whispering, "They match the journal." Nathan nodded grimly. This is where they kept them. The words made her stomach twist. Marcus's flashlight swept the room and stopped. Against one wall, a chain was bolted into the concrete, the cuff still hanging loose. Nearby, a broken chair, a strip of fabric. Claire's throat tightened. She recognized the pattern on the fabric. She had seen Emily wear that scarf before. "Emily was here," she whispered. Nathan's face darkened. "And if she was, then she's either long gone or—" He stopped. His eyes locked on the far corner. A door, smaller, metal, rusted, and it was rattling. They froze, breath caught in their chests. The sound was faint, rhythmic, like something or someone struggling from the other side. Claire's instincts screamed to open it, but Marcus grabbed her arm. "No, we don't know what's in there." Nathan's voice was low, shaking. "That door hasn't moved in years. Nobody should be behind it." The rattling stopped. Silence swallowed the room. Claire took a step forward anyway. Her hand hovered over the handle, her heart racing. But before she could touch it, a noise thundered from upstairs. Footsteps, fast, deliberate. "Someone's here," Nathan hissed. They killed their flashlights. Darkness pressed in from all sides. The footsteps grew louder, closer, until they reached the top of the basement stairs. The old floorboards creaked under the weight of whoever or whatever was standing above them. Then silence. Claire's pulse hammered in her ears. She didn't dare breathe. She could feel Marcus's grip on her arm tightening, Nathan's ragged breath beside her. And then, with one slow, agonizing sound, the basement door at the top of the stairs began to open. The basement door at the top of the stairs creaked open with an agonizing slowness, each sound stretching into the silence until Claire felt her lungs might burst. She held her breath, the darkness pressing down around them. For a moment, no one moved. Then the sound of a foot dragging across wood. Another step, heavy, measured. Whoever was up there wasn't rushing. They were listening, searching. Marcus pulled Claire deeper into the shadows, his hand gripping her wrist so tightly it almost hurt. Nathan crouched low, eyes darting wildly, sweat gleaming on his forehead. He whispered, barely audible, "This house doesn't forget. Once you're inside, it knows you." Claire tried to push the words out of her mind, try to focus, but she couldn't ignore the way the air seemed to shift. Colder, heavier, as if the walls themselves were leaning closer. Then came the whisper, soft, faint, but unmistakable. A woman's voice, from somewhere in the basement. "Claire." Her stomach dropped. The sound seemed to come from a locked metal door in the corner, the same door that had rattled moments before. "Did you hear that?" she whispered. Marcus shook his head furiously, mouthing no. But Nathan's face had gone pale, his lips trembling. "It knows your name now," he whispered. The footsteps above grew fainter, retreating back across the floorboards. The basement door creaked shut again. Silence returned. But Claire couldn't stop staring at the locked door. Her rational mind told her it was impossible. Emily couldn't be here. Emily couldn't be speaking through rusted steel. But something in her chest, something raw and desperate, wanted to believe. Slowly, she stepped toward it. "Claire!" The whisper came again, clearer this time, threaded with static, like a voice bleeding through old radio static. Marcus grabbed her arm. "We're leaving. Now." But Claire shook him off, crouched by the door, pressing her ear to the cold metal. Her pulse pounded. "Emily? Is that you?" For a moment, nothing. Then, faint scratching. Nails dragging across the other side of the door. Nathan stumbled backward, muttering, No, it's not her. It's never them. It's what's left behind." Claire turned sharply. "What are you talking about?" Nathan's voice cracked. "The house doesn't let go. It keeps pieces. Fragments. It feeds on them." Marcus cursed under his breath. "This is insane. We need to go before." Before he could finish, every flashlight flickered. Once. Twice. Then died. Darkness swallowed them whole. In the black silence, Claire heard it again. The whisper. But this time, it wasn't just her name. "Open the door. Let me out." Claire's shaking hands fumbled for her phone light. She managed to flick it on for a split second, just enough to catch a glimpse of the carvings on the wall. They were moving. Not literally, at least not like something alive, but in the stuttering beam of her phone, the etched symbols seemed to shift, reshaping themselves, flowing across the concrete like ink in water. The interlocking circles widened, stretched, became hollow eyes staring back at her. She dropped the phone. The light went out. The scraping at the door grew louder. Faster. Nails. Claws. Hands. She couldn't tell. Marcus pulled her toward the stairs, shouting in a low hiss, "Claire now." But her body froze, because beneath the chaos, beneath the scraping and whispers, she heard one sound that made her knees buckle. A voice. Emily's voice. Crystal clear. "Help me, Claire." Her chest heaved. Her vision blurred with tears. She wanted to believe. She needed to believe. But Nathan's broken whisper echoed inside her head. "It's not them. It's what's left behind." The basement shook violently. Dust rained from the ceiling. Something banged against the metal door with earth-shaking force. Once, twice, harder each time. Claire finally moved, Marcus dragging her by the arm as they stumbled toward the stairs. Behind them, the door screeched as if straining against its hinges. They reached the top of the basement steps, and Claire risked one last glance back. The door had stopped rattling. It stood perfectly still, but in the darkness beyond it, two faint, glowing eyes stared back at her. The moment they burst out of the basement and into the night air, Claire doubled over, gasping. The cold wind slapped her face, grounding her, but her mind was still trapped below, in the dark, with the whispers and the eyes. Nathan staggered out last, slamming the door shut behind him, his hands trembling so hard the keys slipped from his grip. "You shouldn't have gone near it," he muttered, voice breaking. "You should never answer when it calls." Claire spun on him. "That was Emily. I heard her. I know it was her." Nathan's hollow eyes fixed on her, full of pity and fear. "That's what it wants you to believe." Marcus cut in, his voice sharp. "We're done. Claire, this isn't an investigation anymore. It's a death wish." But Claire wasn't listening. The sound of Emily's voice still clung to her, twisting her insides. She knew Nathan was hiding something. Maybe not the truth, but something. She demanded answers. What was the house? Why the carvings? Why the whispers? Nathan shook his head slowly. "I told you, it doesn't forget. Everyone who enters leaves something behind. A voice, a shadow, a piece of their soul. That's why the journal matters. Emily didn't just leave notes for you. She left a part of herself." The word struck her like ice. If he was right, then what she heard in that basement wasn't Emily alive, it was Emily trapped. That night, Claire couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the faint glow of those eyes in the basement. She heard the scrape of nails, the whisper of her name. At one point, she jolted awake, certain someone was standing in the corner of her bedroom, only to find empty air. The next morning, a package arrived at her door. No return address. Inside, wrapped in brown paper, was a small cassette tape. Her name was written across it in Emily's handwriting. Her hands shook as she slid it into the old tape player she hadn't touched in years. Static crackled, then a voice. Emily's voice. "If you're hearing this, I didn't make it out." Claire's chest tightened. Emily's voice continued, broken, hurried. "The house isn't what it looks like. Don't trust the walls. Don't follow the voices. And if you find the door, don't open it." The tape cut to silence. Then, faintly, under the static, came the sound of heavy breathing, followed by a whisper. Not Emily's this time. Something deeper. Too late. The tape clicked off. Claire sat frozen, the room suddenly colder, the shadows deeper. She realized with a sick certainty that whatever was in the boarding house had followed her home. Marcus called later, his voice tense. He'd had dreams, the same one she'd been having, the same eyes watching from the dark. And Nathan? He never answered her calls again. By the next day, he was gone. His apartment emptied overnight, as if he had never lived there at all. Claire knew she had two choices: run from the truth, or go back into the house and face whatever had claimed Emily. And deep down, she already knew which one she would choose. The story of Emily Carver and the boarding house is far from over, and the deeper Claire digs, the darker the truth becomes. If you don't want to miss what happens next, make sure you're subscribed with notifications on, so you'll be the first to know when the next chapter drops.